The income statement, one of the three main financial statements along with the balance sheet and the statement of cash flows. What the income statement is doing is it's showing the results for the company. The income statement shows the results for a period of time. Normally when we think about the income statement, we think about a year, the annual income statement. But the company prepares 3-month, 6-month, and 9-month income statements. They can prepare an income statement for a month, for a year, for a week. Whatever time period they want to prepare, they can prepare an income statement for it. In the header to the income statement, it says the income statement. Name of the company for the year ended, for the quarter ended, for the 6 months ended. Whatever the case may be, you just label what is the time period that this income statement is showing the results of the company for. We're taking all of those transactions the company had. We're going to get revenue, we're going to get expenses, we're going to get gains, we're going to get losses, and we'll talk about all of those. But we're putting all of that together to show the results for a period of time. Now, the income statement accounts, those revenue and expense accounts, are what are called temporary accounts. At the end of the period, they're going to be closed to retained earnings. So at the beginning of every period, January 1st, when we talked about an annual income statement, at the beginning of the period, the account balances in these income statement accounts is zero. And then as revenue is earned during the period, that money goes into the revenue account. As things are sold, those costs go into cost of goods sold, salary expense, and all of those different expense accounts that the company has. But the thing about the income statement is it is a period in time. Now what we have here is a multi-step income statement. And the reason it's multi-step is because we start with sales or service revenue at the top, and at the bottom is net income. But between that revenue and net income, we have gross profit. We have operating income, income from continuing operations before income taxes, income from continuing operations, and net income. There's multiple steps as we go through this. Now, for most companies, the thing that we're looking at most is going to be this income from continuing operations. These are the operations that the company had this year that are going to continue in the future. Okay, we're going to talk about discontinued operations separately a little bit, but you'll notice that the difference between continuing operations and net income is discontinued operations. These are the parts of the business that aren't going to continue to exist in the future. So when you're making a decision to buy shares in a company, to invest in a company, the number you're more interested in is income from continuing operations than net income. Because net income might include income, it might be losses, from some part of the business that's not going to exist in the future. Now, as we go through the rest of the exam, we'll talk about gross profit, we'll talk about operating income, we'll talk about how these numbers are being calculated. But this is what we have in the multi-step income statement. Now, the elements of the income statement. The income statement is made up of revenues and expenses and gains and losses. And what you need to know is what is the difference between a revenue and a gain and an expense and a loss. And it's relatively straightforward. Revenues and expenses are those inflows or outflows that result from the main or central operations of the business. That's the key phrase, main or central operations. If it is what the company is in business to do, those are revenues and expenses. So we have a company that produces toys to sell to children. So the cost of producing those toys, the money they receive for selling those toys, those are revenues and expenses because that is the company's main central operations. It's what they do. Okay. Now, a company can have multiple main or central operations, but this is what that division does. These are the main reasons that the company exists. Gains and losses, on the other hand, result from not the central or main operations. That toy company, they've got a factory, they've got equipment. One of the pieces of equipment gets old, so they sell that piece of equipment. And let's say they sell it at a profit, they have a gain on it. Well, that sale of that piece of equipment is going to be recorded as a gain instead of a revenue and expense because the company doesn't exist. Their main operation is not to sell used equipment. Their main operation is to sell toys, to make toys and sell them. As a result of doing that, occasionally a machine is old and is sold. So revenues and expenses are from the main or central operations of the company. Gains and losses come from all of those transactions that are not part of the company's main or central operations. They're not generating revenues and expense. We're going to take that transaction and reduce it to either a gain or a loss. Okay, it's either a gain or a loss, but it's not from the main or central operations. Now, a few things we need to look at. We need to look specifically at discontinued operations, which we already touched on briefly. We need to look at unusual gains and losses and how they're going to be reported on the income statement. And we need to look at the intra-period tax allocation. We start with discontinued operations. When we talk about discontinued operations, we need to understand what this is. This is a disposal of a component or group of components for the company, and this disposal represents a strategic shift that has or will have a major effect on the entity's operations and financial results. So, here's an example. Let's pretend that we have a restaurant chain that has thousands of restaurants across the world. If they close one of those restaurants, that is not a discontinued operation, because that one restaurant is not a component of the organization. It's one piece of. Closing that one restaurant doesn't represent a strategic shift for the company. It means they put the restaurant in the wrong place. It means that the people who live there don't like that restaurant anymore. It's not a strategic shift for the company. Now, let's take a company that has two product lines. Each one represents 50% of the revenue and profits for the company, and it decides to sell one of those product lines. That's a strategic shift. That has a major effect on their operations and financial results. That is a discontinued operation. So when we're talking about discontinued operations, we're talking about significant parts of the business. Okay? It's called a component or a group of components, but it's a strategic shift that will have or has a major effect on their operations and financial results. So that's what we're talking about with discontinued operations. So what we need to look at is, how do we account for discontinued operations? And we already saw the answer when we looked at that multi-step income statement, because we had income from continuing operations, then we had discontinued operations, and then we had net income. So the one-word answer for how do we account for discontinued operations is separately. We report them separately. We take them out of continuing operations. It's its own little section on the income statement. Now, if the company doesn't have any discontinued operations, then income from continuing operations and net income are the same number. But if they have discontinued operations, we're going to take those revenues and expenses of that discontinued operation and we're going to pull it out of continuing operations and stick it down there in that section, discontinued operations. Because if you're buying this company, if you're investing in this company, you're investing in the operations that will continue. You're not investing in what they're selling. If you want to invest in what they're selling, buy it. Buy that discontinued operation from the company. And so separately, we're taking those discontinued operations and separating them from continuing operations. Now, all those gains and losses are going to be reported in the period in which that gain or loss occurred, which means the gains and losses from this period's operations of that discontinued segment will be reported this period. And it's the entire year's operations are going to be reported as discontinued, no matter when the company made the decision. If on December 30th, they said, oh, we're going to sell Division B. We're going to sell half our company. Well, what we do is we go back to January 1st, and we take all those transactions that were part of that discontinued operation. We're going to move it down below continuing operations into that discontinued operations section. The gains and losses that we expect will happen in the future, connected to operations, connected to the sale of the assets, we will report that next year when it happens. This year is reported this year, next year is reported next year. And it's all reported separately in that discontinued section. Now, within that discontinued section, there's actually two lines on the income statement. The first is the gain or loss from the operations of that discontinued component, and the second is the income tax benefit or loss from that discontinued component. So the tax effect of the discontinued operation is reported separately from the taxes that are connected to the continuing operations. So if the company had continuing operations and a discontinued operation, let's say continuing operation is very profitable, but the discontinued operation was losing money. Well, that loss from the discontinued operation is a tax benefit because it's reducing the taxes that the company has to pay on all of its profit, those divisions that were profitable. And so we have the loss on the operations of the discontinued component, and then we have an income tax benefit. So there's an upside to losing money on that discontinued operation. It reduces your income taxes. But there's two lines that are shown on the income statement. The first line is the operations of the discontinued component, and the second line is the tax effect of that income or loss from that discontinued operation. So discontinued operations are reported separately. It's their own little section on the income statement. Now, unusual gains and losses. These are gains and losses that the firm shows separately. They are going to be part of ordinary gains and losses. They're part of income from operations. We're not segregating them to a different section of the income statement, but what's happening is essentially there's an unusual event. Okay, we've got something that doesn't happen very often, and instead of putting that in with everything else, we're going to just make one line. That is the gain or loss from whatever. It might be assets, inventory that were significantly damaged and we had a loss on that. It might be charges connected to restructuring the business. It happened, it's an expense, but it's not something that's going to continue in the future. It just happened now. We don't expect it to happen again. So unusual gains and losses are reported separately as part of income from operations. It's not its own section. Now, some of you may be listening to this and think, well, this is an extraordinary event. The extraordinary events under U.S. GAAP don't exist anymore. Okay, and so instead of having an extraordinary event that used to be presented separately, these are now unusual gains and losses that are presented as part of income from operations. So we have income from continuing operations and discontinued operations. Those are the only two sections, the only two parts to the income statement anymore. The third item we need to look at is intra-period tax allocation. And this is taking the taxes we owe this period and allocating it on the income statement to the different parts of income that pay the taxes. And so this is taxes from income from continuing operations and discontinued operations. I already gave the example of this. Our discontinued operations, there's a tax effect. The tax effect from discontinued operations is shown as part of discontinued operations. The item that goes in continuing operations and taxes from continuing operations is, as the name implies, the taxes connected to those operations that are going to continue in the future. So this is the income statement. It's a movie. It's a period of time. All of the transactions that the company has undertaken during that period. We have revenues and expenses, which are the transactions that are the main or central operations of the business. We have gains and losses, and these are the transactions that are not from the main or central operations of the business. So what are the uses of the income statement? Well, the income statement helps the users of the financial statements predict future cash flows. Okay? It's helping us predict future cash flows. It helps users evaluate the company's past performance and compare it to competitors. How did we do last year? How did our competitors do? Now, this foundation of what happened in the past then provides a basis for predicting future performance. We may go back 2 or 3 years. We're losing money, but we're losing less than we did before. So maybe next year we'll be profitable. Okay, what's the trend? How is this moving? And this helps users assess the risk or uncertainty of achieving future cash flows. How have we done? Predicting that, taking that into the future. This is a series, this is the year's transactions. What are the results of all of those transactions? Now, what are some of the limitations of the income statement? Well, there's assumptions and judgment in it. How do we calculate depreciation expense? We make an assumption about the useful life. We make an assumption about the salvage value. Okay? What was the gain or loss on the long-term contract? We make assumptions about future costs. There's a lot of assumptions and judgments in the income statement. We also have different accounting methods. What's our income if we use FIFO compared to LIFO? What's our income if we use percentage complete or completed contract for long-term contracts? There's a lot of places where there's choices in US GAAP. So which choice we make is going to impact how much income we have. Items that can't be measured reliably aren't on the income statement. If we can't measure it, if we don't know how to measure it, we can't quantify it, we can't give it a dollar amount, it's not on the income statement. Okay? The value of your brand goes up, customer service improves, product quality improves. That may be a good thing, but there's no way we can quantify that. There's no way we can measure that to put it on the income statement. And finally, as a limitation, the income statement is limited to reporting events that produce these reportable revenues and expenses. There are events that happen, these measurements we just mentioned, that we can't put into the income statement because we don't know the amount. We signed a long-term contract. It's a great event. But we don't know, we can't recognize that until it actually happens. So until the items are able to be measured, until they're realizable, they're not on the income statement, even though the company may know that they're going to be coming. So the income statement, as we've said, it's a period of time. It's a movie. It's taking the results of the transactions of the company and coming up with this net income. You need to know income from continuing operations. You need to know that discontinued operations are reported separately. But as with all of the accounting information, it's not perfect. There's assumptions, there's judgment, there's accounting method decisions. And so all of this is part of the process of using that financial information that's in the financial statements for users to make decisions.